Hello and welcome to week 8, which is our final week of our digital weekly creative offering sessions. And if you've seen them through to 1 to 8, thank you so much. I really hope they've been useful to you. And the beauty is that even though we finish with this one today, you can go back through them and find what you want out of them. By no means are they a sort of master resource of creative prompts by any means, but hopefully it's given you some food for thought, and now you can obviously seek some more out online if you'd like to. So for our final week, our theme this week is comedy. I don't know what that was, but hey, a fun bit of music for you that I sang to you myself. So yes, comedy. I absolutely love comedy. For any of you who know me, sketch comedy is something I really love doing, I really love making, and I really love teaching as well. So that's going to be the focus of today's video and this week's offer. Some very basic things about making comedy for you just to start off with. You need to go into this week with not trying to be funny, but instead looking to find the funny. In sessions where I teach comedy, I often say this because people feel that there's this pressure that you have to already be funny, that funny is a natural thing, and that it should just, like, everything you do should be funny if you're making comedy. Actually, no, you don't have to be naturally funny. It's actually much more important to be observant and to find funny around you and use that, and not expect to be funny all of the time. I mean, again, it's this 90% 10% thing. It's the magic ratio. 90% of what you're going to do is not going to be funny. 10% of it will be. Then you lean into that 10%. That's the whole thing with creativity. You can't go into it expecting to be fantastic at everything you do, at everything you make, at everything you explore. That isn't the purpose of it. The purpose is to play, to enjoy, to have fun, okay? So let's just get that out of the way, because I don't want anybody going into this week thinking, yeah, I'm going to do it and I've got to be funny. Go with authenticity, okay? And I'll explain that a bit more in a second. So with sketches, there's a few key things, all right? They're wonderful things to write because instead of having to write a full-length play, you can just write a very short thing that can stand alone. You can write as many of those as you want. What sketches do is they force you to be economic with how you write that sketch. You have to learn to get straight into the action right away. You have to learn to tell a story very quickly, and you have to learn how to conclude that story. All really useful skills for when you're writing something much larger than a sketch. So, some offers for you to think about this week. Number 1 is just be observant, okay? Most, you know, when you have funny stories that you tell people, you see things that are funny. And I know this because I've had phone call check-ins with people all week where they've been telling me funny little things they've picked up on, or they've thought, or they've felt. That's the thing you need to follow. Write those ideas down. Write down what's happened. Write down what made you laugh. And this week I want you to pick up on when things make you laugh. And that could be whether you're watching more comedy this week for this offer, or if you're just being a bit more observant. Really enjoy those moments and try and pinpoint what made you laugh, because some things make you laugh because they're unexpected, some things are a shock, some things are well crafted. There's a variety of types of jokes, okay? So in order to make a sketch, there's a first exercise here for you is lists, okay? Lists are really helpful. Listing locations, occupations, types of mood and personality traits. So you've got these long lists of things that you could mix up together, because the main thing with comedy is that it's about the unexpected thing, okay? So I've got my lists, okay, of my places, my occupations, the types of people that could be there. I mix them up and I go, okay, I'm not going to take everything, but I'm going to take a bored waiter in a restaurant. Okay, so bored waiter in a restaurant. How could I make that funny? So, okay, what I do know from going into a restaurant is certain things happen. So what you can do is get a piece of A4 paper with your environment, so restaurant, and you write down all the things that would happen in a restaurant. So ordering food, finding a table, getting served, being checked on, paying the bill. So there's all these different things. You go into as much detail as possible, and then you look at ways you can make that funny and twist what you would expect. So I've picked bored waiter because waiters are usually really attentive and cheerful, but what happens if they're really bored and miserable? So then I might look at them like, you know, greeting a couple coming in for a first date or an anniversary meal, a special anniversary meal, and my waiter being just like really bored and miserable. And it's starting to give me options of what could happen, and that little breakdown of everything that happens at a restaurant is really useful, because you go, actually then that can come back into play with the bill, it can come back into play when they check on them halfway through, and it makes it universal. We all know that these things are meant to happen when we do that thing, when we're in that place. So then how do we flip that on its head? So that's your first task. These lists, mixing things up that don't go together, and then doing your little spider diagram as a means of figuring out what the action could be within a sketch. That's sort of like the whole of the first offer. You have to forgive me, comedy is so broad, and I'm trying to keep it as concise and as focused as possible. You might want to rewind and watch me talk this through again. Try and keep sketches to a minute in the first instance. See if you can be really economic. Sometimes sketches can go on for 5 or 6 minutes, but my challenge for you is see what you can do in a minute. That's just a fun little thing I'm going to throw in there. If you find that you're sat at home watching any television, this is also really good. Like, watch a whole morning of daytime television and see if there's an interesting character, see if there's an interesting parody you could do, okay? So I've already touched on this a few times, using television as a means for inspiration. Last week, I was saying about the weather and how you could do a parody of the weatherman. So see if there's anything that you're seeing on telly that's making you laugh, somebody unusual, somebody quirky, something you could turn on its head. Maybe it's like the cooking segment of like, This Morning or whatever, and how could that be subverted to be not what we're anticipating it to be. So use television as a means of flipping things on its head as well. You might want to have a look at different types of sketches. So one thing that I'd say is radio sketch. I'm not very well versed in this, but it's something you could probably do some research on. How can you create a sketch that we can only hear? It might be an interesting task, and something that you can actually physically record and do and get some feedback on potentially. Likewise, utilizing the one person sketch is really great, because especially if you're on your own, it doesn't need anybody else. So think of examples where one person could be in that sketch. My favourite example of this is Smack the Pony do these great dating videos, dating profile videos, and you could play with things like that, creating quirky characters, doing something, maybe they're an unusual YouTuber or something, and then actually film it and do it and see what it is, looking back at it, send it to people you trust and get some feedback. So yeah, there's a few different offers there, but I can't stress this enough. Comedy is really up for fair game with how you want to approach it, but the key things are that a sketch must have a storyline, it must have characters that we want to see, it must have jokes in it. I know that sounds stupid, but it must have jokes in it, and it must have some sort of ending. We don't want to just be left not knowing if it's come to an end. So again, back to that point about being authentic, if we were looking at acting comedy and we were going back to my bored waiter, or writing the bored waiter part, it isn't me preempting what I think is going to be funny. That's not guiding my writing. What's guiding my writing is a waiter that does not want to be there. So I'm really thinking as an actor here, my waiter does not want to be here, they are bored, so what would they say in this instance? That's what I'm being true to, that's what I'm staying authentic to. I'm not going, what will be funny? Because that's how you can get tripped up, okay? So be authentic with it. Create scenarios where the unexpected can happen, but be true to what's happening in that scene, and then let that unfold. I hope that's given you some food for thought. I know this one was a bit of a blur of information at you, but hopefully it will make some sense, and there's tons of resources online about writing sketch comedy, so get on there and have a look. I want to thank you so much for being part of this little journey with me. I'm sure in no time at all we'll be opening our doors again and be able to reunite and get back into workshop environments and be making incredible things. But for the time being, stay creative if you can. Don't put pressure on yourself to make something fantastic. Just do it for the love of it. Do it for the fun of it. Go where you find the joy for you, okay? And stay safe. Take care of one another. and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you. Take care.